Hello and welcome back to another episode of Timeless or Trash. I'm your host for this episode, James, and joining me as always is...
Ben,
Dan,
and Christian.
And with the upcoming release of Spider-Man No Way Home, we all thought it would be a great time to go back and look at the very first Spider-Man film of this generation, Spider-Man. Just simple, no titles, nothing else, just Spider-Man. This is going to be a slightly different video from ones that we normally do, because correct me if I'm wrong, we've all seen this film and we feel like we remember it well enough.
I have seen this, but a long time ago. I feel like the last time I saw it was when it actually was at the cinema, which was when?
Jeez,
2002.
Really?
Yeah, I may have watched it since, but not for a long time. And honestly, I don't remember too much about it, really. I remember it being good. I remember the setup with Peter Parker being good, because there's a lot more of him, like, as Peter Parker in this, isn't there? And how he grows to be Spider-Man. Other than that, I don't really remember much. I'm up for watching it.
Christian, what's your sort of relationship with this, and what do you remember?
I actually watched this not that long ago. As soon as the rumours started coming out that these films and the Andrew Garfield films might tie into the new Spider-Man, immediately I was like, well, you know, any excuse to break out the old Spider-Man films. But I do remember sitting down and thinking, like, I loved these films as a kid and I watched them a lot, but there's certain scenes where I was like, this is not how I remember this playing out.
That is kind of the pinnacle of what the idea behind Timeless or Trash was, wasn't it? Like, watching these films that we loved as a kid, but do you remember them as well as you thought, and do they stand the test of time?
This is like peak childhood. This is like, oh, the nostalgia is high. I'm so excited to like give this a watch, especially now we're so bombarded with the Marvel formula and it's like rammed down our throats every month, seems like these days. This was the peak era where it was like a superhero film every 3 years. This is a world where people like Tobey Maguire and Michael Keaton coming back was just out of the question. Michael Keaton is back as Batman, everybody. It's insane. What? I can't believe the world we're living in. I'm so excited, and this film, I've not seen it in a while, but I know, I remember it. Spider-Man 2's, unrivaled. In my opinion, it's the best Spider-Man movie. This one, I'm very much looking forward to it, and I love Sam Raimi, so I'm very excited for the campy humour, which I'm sure will be quite a lot in this. Maybe a clunky first attempt. Hopefully not.
Yeah, as is well documented on this channel, I'm a huge Marvel fan in general. I love Spider-Man. He's maybe my favourite Marvel character, and this film is what really kicked off the love of superheroes for me. I have a lot of fond memories for it. It's obviously spawned a big part of my personality now. I, however, quite curious to go back and watch this because I haven't seen them in a long time, and I wonder whether it maybe hasn't aged as well as some of us remembered. Is this a rose-tinted goggles kind of thing? I'm very curious to find out.
Yeah, especially for you, James, being such like the MCU fan. Seeing a Marvel movie with a different flavour, I guess, would be very interesting to see. I'm just looking forward to just a movie that's not all CGI, just all of it looking fake, even the dialogue scenes. I can't wait.
And with that said, should we get started?
Definitely.
Let's crack on, yeah.
Let's do this.
And there you have it. That was Spider-Man 2002. I'm just going to say it from the top. I was wrong in the intro. This film has aged better than I thought it would.
Oh, thank God.
I'll be honest.
Didn't know where he was going.
Like going into this, I was really expecting to like have a lot to pick apart about this film and be like, oh, that's not aged well, or that looks crap, or like where we are now, it just doesn't work any well. No, it does. Like, it stands the test of time a lot better than I thought it would. I'm quite annoyed, if I'm honest. I was hoping there'd be more to laugh at. I was hoping this film would be a bit crapper. It's just pretty quite good, isn't it?
It's ruddy good, isn't it? It's a ruddy good time.
James, how does it stand up against the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Very different. That's what I kind of like what would be the point if we had a film from like almost 20 years ago and we're like, oh yeah, this could slot in now, then what's the point if we've not moved on anywhere? Ben, you said that it's a shame how much of Spider-Man's character the MCU hasn't done, and I think it's that part of them, they're too scared to just retread the same ground, because this is the third one we've had within 20 years. Like, that's a lot of versions of Spider-Man. We can only see Uncle Ben die so many times.
I don't mind not seeing Uncle Ben die, but it's like maybe the most important part of his character, and it's literally not mentioned and addressed at all in the MCU, and they just replace it with Iron Man. That's my big problem with it. Anyway,
back to the film that we just watched.
It really does have its own identity, doesn't it? You can really see the identity of the director coming through in certain shots. I don't think you really have that sense in an MCU film. For example, in Eternals, that kind of identity would never shine through in Eternals, would it?
That's not true, man. Nomadland and Eternals are both really dull. So, I mean, shines through there.
In similar ways that, like, so, when we get a Taika Waititi film in the MCU, it's kind of like Taika light. And even this, I'd say, like, you can tell at moments it is Sam Raimi, but I still wouldn't say it's full horror. Like, it's only in certain scenes. Like, when the music cuts out, particularly in, like, that last fight, it's so good.
That whole section's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I love the third act.
It's a really strong act.
Modern superhero movies where it's like it's the end of the world and it's big and it's all CGI and it's like, nah, just keep out the characters, just these two guys. No one else is there having the final little brawl, and I just love it.
And Spider-Man gets the shit kicked out of him.
And makes the best noises.
Oh, so good. And I really like the look of, like, the half mask. I think that's such a stronger look than what you get in a lot of the other films where they get hit a bit and then they just rip their mask off. It's like, bit lazy.
I just love how just campy and just silly this film is. Just weird moments, strange choices, some funny little transitions, like that weird goblin. And like the extras are great. Like that one random woman to be like, "It's Spider-Man!" Like that kind of fun comic booky.
It's very comic booky.
Yeah. It's this element of fun is missing from some other like modern superhero movies. I think I really miss the campiness.
The wrestling section itself is so great, but just the one guy who jumps up for a single second and goes, that's it. That's his 15 seconds of fame.
Yeah.
He's done.
And like Octavia Spencer's in it for a lovely little scene. Bruce Campbell is just. Oh.
Bruce Campbell gives him his name.
The Amazing Spider-Man!
Yeah.
Great, yeah, it's just great.
There is a lot that's good about this film. However, Kirsten Dunst and Tobey Maguire have the worst chemistry of any Spider-Man couple. There's just not a single part about me that believes them as a couple.
They don't really have many scenes together.
Don't they?
They have a few.
I mean, yeah, but that they don't really amount to much. Like they're very kind of superficial kind of scenes, don't you think? Like nothing really happens with them. It doesn't. There's no chance for like the chemistry to build there at all. So maybe it's like a problem with the script more than anything.
Maybe. I don't think she's very good in this film, I'll be honest. I think chemistry's not there. MJ's supposed to be kind of like, not a ball buster, but she's supposed to be like fiery, and she calls him out and she kind of keeps him on his toes. She's just a bit bland and a bit vanilla in this. Quite disappointing.
She does come off as the very typical sort of damsel in distress character.
That's it, yeah.
Like she's not got that sort of fiery from the comics like MJ. I mean, there's that one bit where the four guys corner her and she swings out, slaps two of them, kicks one of them in the nuts.
Barely anything though.
I don't mind it. I just.
I
kind of like. I totally see all your points, but I just like. I just kind of enjoy it.
The bits that really dated on this version of Spider-Man are the bits where it did try to be like CGI, because the CGI does not hold up. One of the few negative dated things about this film. CGI. It looks ropey.
I think particularly it's noticeable with Green Goblin because you have him going in this like leather suit where he can't really move and then suddenly cuts to very rubbery jumping around. It's that quick cut that just really shines how poorly it's aged at points.
I think the moment that really stuck out for me when he's like swinging through the streets for the first time in his like wrestling attire and they've got the cutout where you can see his eyes. There's a couple of frames where I imagine if you pause the film and look, you can clearly tell that that's like a CGI model because they've not really modeled anything. It's just like a mannequin with blue eyes and they've been like, yeah, that's good enough. No, everyone's only going to see it for a split second. It looks bad by today's standards, but it also adds charm. And like Danny was saying, I love the fact that they went heavy on the practical effects and only used CGI when it was a scene that they absolutely couldn't do practically.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever seen how they filmed some of like the swinging stuff, of how like they set up all these wires and stuff and actually like swung the cameras through the streets of New York or like dropped them and then took the footage and then animated Spider-Man over the top of it, so you get the actual swinging feel. It's not all just animated and on a green screen. I know they did with some of it, but it just kind of grounds it a bit more. It's clever stuff, man.
It's all that stuff that really helps it age well, because I'm sure even now how good the modern superhero movies are, I wonder if we look back at them in 10, 20 years time, we'd be like, oh, it doesn't look that good anymore.
Probably.
Oh, for sure.
We've mentioned how, like, you know, Tobey Maguire, he's good, and Willem Dafoe, great Green Goblin. All of this pales in comparison to J. Jonah Jameson.
Of course. Steals every scene he's in.
Yeah,
basically.
he's the best thing in the film.
Every single word and line he says is just incredible.
The delivery of it and the timing is perfect as well. How fast he is with the responses.
They're really important clients. They can't wait.
They're about to.
It's crazy how, like, on the first try, it's just nailed it, and the dialogue is just perfect.
It's not all the dialogue.
His responses are really quick, and like
JK's dialogue is all great. JK's
talking-
dialogue's incredible.
Yeah. Talking to Jay Jonah, like, it's crazy for the first try how spot on it is.
So your wife says the tile you ordered for the foyer is out of stock.
Tell her we'll just put a rug there.
Speaking of dialogue, the hospital speech about when I'm with her, I'm excited but nervous. I'm alive, but I'm dead. Worst thing in any Spider-Man film. It's so bad. He's creepy. Like, you know when you see those edits of where they're like, oh, we took Home Alone and made it a serial killer film. This would be the easiest footage to turn into a serial killer film, by far. He's not even a part of the school paper. These are just for his own personal collection.
There isn't a school paper. There is some of the lines where she like giggles like they're cute, and she's like, "Oh, how did you know I had an audition?" He's like, "Oh, I heard it through the grapevine, and I was in the neighborhood." And then he goes, "Well, I took 2 buses and a cab to get into the neighborhood." And it's like
it's weird that he's always just there.
It took like Edward Cullen to like finally end this kind of character.
Twilight did something right.
The Uncle Ben stuff's great though. Like that scene of them in the car is like, there's a reason that so much of this film has become iconic.
Yeah, not just the memes alone.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
there is some great memorable dialogue. I love lines like,
I wouldn't want to fight me neither.
Anything Bonesaw says.
You're going nowhere. I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime.
Everything he says.
everything Bonesaw
brilliant.
says.
So whenever people talk about this film, they always mention like, oh yeah, but Tobey Maguire looks 30, and he does look old. Joe Manganiello gets off very lightly in that conversation because he looked the oldest by far.
Is he honestly meant to be a high school
I
student?
think so, yeah.
Yeah, Dan, because it's in a school.
Yeah, I know, but I know.
No, you know what? I'm on Dan's side for this time because I don't believe that he's a high school student either. This time, Dan, you make sense.
Yeah, like, do the filmmakers honestly believe that we can suspend our disbelief to that extent? Because the guy's straight up a grown man.
He's the same age as the teacher.
Yeah.
That teacher looks
It's
younger
just
than most of
jarring.
the students there. It's just... it is what it is.
Yeah. Maybe Flash was kept back a few years. 10, 15 years.
There was a point in this film where it was so good that I forgot what I was even trying to say. I feel like this was almost supposed to sort of...
It's Spider-Man!
Classic.
Don't even care what I was saying.
Oh yeah, great. I really enjoyed the lack of action. There's only like a few set pieces really, and they really concentrate on making those set pieces the best they can be, and each set piece is a little bit different from the rest. The fight on the parade, and they use different weapons, that's like a glider fight, and then there's the fight in the building on fire with the bomb spinny thing, and then there's the end fight, and then there's like the dilemma of the children that he didn't really want to save, and then Mary Jane.
I don't like the dilemma.
Why don't you like the dilemma?
I like the idea of it, but it's then too kind of easy for him to grab them both. I get that he then struggles once he's caught them both, but it's too easy for him. There's no real choice for him to make there, and he doesn't have to like be really clever to outsmart them. He just jumps off, grabs her, then grabs the car.
Easy as. You do it.
It does make it easy.
We don't know.
I
he
could
doesn't-
do it.
We don't know he's able to do that though. That's where the tension comes from, because surely he can't rescue both of them, but yeah, he does.
I agree, the idea is nice, I just don't think the execution of it works that well.
Green Goblin doesn't even estimate that he's going to do that, clearly.
The goblin suit's clunky. Like, it doesn't look great, does it?
The stance where he's talking to him on the roof and he's like bow-legged still,
so
as if
weird.
he's...
That whole scene is weird. It's people with no mouths having a conversation. He gives him a little slap on the head. It's
slap
so
on the
good.
head.
So good.
It's so good.
Do you know what it really reminded me of? It reminded me of the Xenomorph from Alien. The guy in the suit from the and it's just like you see like the behind the scenes footage of the Xenomorph, and it's blatantly just a guy in a suit. It kind of looked like that, and he even had the sort of oblong head as well.
It's even weirder as well when it's like Willem Dafoe's got that amazing.
Face.
No, I was about to say expressionless, but it's expressive. That's
Yeah.
the word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the exact
Expressive.
opposite.
Yeah, the exact opposite. Yeah, that expressive face. Like there's that bit where he like is topless and he jumps on the ledge and he makes like the goblin face right in the camera. It's like, why are you covering that up?
Have you seen like one of the designs they had for it? Because at one point they were going to go more like rubber mask that could move and emote with the purple sort of thing hanging off, and I don't really know why they scrapped it. This is an issue I have with the Raimi films in general. I don't like how unemotive Spider-Man is, and then Green Goblin as well. Like when it's just this flat expressionless thing, you do lose something that Holland has.
And his jaw isn't just, it doesn't move. him like in Deadpool, like his jaw clearly is moving.
I think part of the reason they did that was so that you could then have a set face, and then whether there was a stunt double or Tobey wearing it, you couldn't tell the difference. It's smart, but it looks dumb.
It's the era as well when like they made these comic book movies, but they didn't trust the comics they were adapting.
You actually go outside in these things. What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
That whole scene where he discovers wall crawling is just great.
It's the music, you know. It's that great Danny Elfman score and the great theme. You get to listen to all of it during those credits. I don't mind it. I like the credits.
3 minutes those credits, man. I timed it.
I do want to. Where's Peter Parker making this like professional suit from? He's suddenly a graphic designer and an absolute whiz on a sewing machine.
And where's Green Goblin getting the mask from? It's just, did he make the mask himself? It all just kind of appeared. But that's kind of like part of the charm of this film, though. It dispenses with those kind of details and just gives you a bit of a fun experience, doesn't it?
You don't need to know. He's Spider-Man now.
Maybe it was just a mad coincidence. He just had this suit and then he gets bitten by the spider.
Finally, I have a chance to use it.
I should probably make this suit work.
The best, one of my favourite transitions is the random car that just comes at the screen when he's looking at the car. Oh, it's so good.
It's not as good as the transition from the explosion into the caps being thrown in there. There's just
really
loads of really nice little touches in there that obviously I never picked up as a kid when I was like 6. Funnily enough, I think the worst part of where it really feels like a man rather than like a teenage kid, whenever he's in the Spider-Man suit, he looks like a fully grown man. Do you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't look like a teenager. Whereas when you look at Tom Holland's Spider-Man, I'm like, yeah, I can believe that's a kid.
They wanted to look like a superhero from the comic.
The worst part in the whole trilogy, though, even as a kid, I was like, what? He's in the second one when, like, after the train scene, he's got the mask is off, and someone goes,
he's just a kid. No older than my son.
It's like, no, that man's 30. Like, he looks 30. What he should have said was, oh my god, that's a fully grown man. Even older than me.
He's so old.
So after that, you know, all that conversation, we've watched the film, we've spoken it through, but now let's answer the question. Is Spider-Man timeless or trash? I'm going to come to Dan first.
Well, I enjoyed this film when it first came out, and I enjoyed this film tonight. It had some nice scenes, some nice action, some good characters. It was a charming, largely inoffensive, quite simple and fun superhero film. So of course, I consider it timeless.
Christian, what about you?
They've just crafted it so carefully. They picked the best actors, not just for the foreground, but for the background. It's got a great score, both in Danny Elfman and Nickelback. They've used practical effects everywhere they possibly can. So, of course, I'm just going to give this timeless.
Ben, what about you?
It's got some really great pacing to it. I think you really do get to know Peter and his struggles and all the scenes with Aunt May and all these so many iconic moments, and even the stuff that's a bit silly is now I'd say iconic, and it's just some great film, great moments, really, really fun, but also lots of good moments of depth in the film as well for the characters. I really enjoyed it. It's timeless.
Well, I'll close this off. I'm a big enough man to hold my hands up and say, yeah, I was absolutely wrong about this film. It's aged way better than I ever thought it might do. It stands the test of time. It's still good, and there's a reason that this is, I think, like, a lot of people give Iron Man credit for kicking off the MCU, and it did, but I don't think you get Iron Man without Spider-Man. So, obviously, this film is timeless. And that rounds it off. So, a unanimous decision. The spacemen from Pluto have decided that Spider-Man is timeless.
I think we should go back and do some more festive Christmas classics. Clip.
I'm in big trouble.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. Hopefully you liked this video. If you did, we've got plenty more on the way, and plenty more that we've already done. If you want to go back and watch some of our older stuff, don't forget to like, give us a subscribe, comment. Do you think that Spider-Man's timeless or trash? Should we take a look at The Amazing Spider-Man?
No.
Because maybe that's slightly less timeless. But until next time, bye.
Bye.